Hello, pals. Welcome to our Meet the Maker Wednesday at 3 o'clock. I'm really sorry it's not at 3 o'clock. We've had such technical woes, and yet we're here. We're here for you. Please do say in the comments if you can't see or hear or any of that stuff. We're still learning. Um, Going from running a theatre company to suddenly being a digital artist is no mean feat. And so yeah, if there are any technical issues during today, then just write them in the comments. Um, so, Tessa Bide Productions. Every Wednesday, we're doing a different Meet the Collaborator series to open up what it can mean to work in theatre for you guys, our audiences. When we go into schools, quite often when we're rehearsing shows, we'll go around the school in a lap, and each of our collaborators will meet a class and talk about their job for like 10-15 minutes. And this is always super duper popular, and children are always really interested to hear what a composer does and what a dramaturg does, what it's like being an author. And then we thought, wow, why don't we kind of put that out there whilst we're in lockdown to maybe get little ones thinking about what they might want to be when they're older, or maybe if you're already older, maybe you might have burning questions as to what it's like being doing any of those creative jobs, and what it takes to make a professional show. And now is your chance to ask those questions. So today we have Steph Dewali. She is an amazing actor based in London, and I've worked with Steph on projects since 2017, when she first auditioned for the Tap Dancing Mermaid. We did a remount of it, produced by Pigtails Productions, and Steph toured with it all over the UK and did an absolutely stonking job. And then the year after, she did the R&D, the research and development period of Perfect, which was the show that we made in 2018. So without any further ado, I shall introduce to you Steph. Hang on a sec. Here we go. Hi, Steph.
Hello.
The power of technology. No one is saying so far that they can't hear us, so I'm going to assume that that is good news.
Oh, great.
How are you?
I'm really well, thank you. Yeah, not bad.
Good. How's London? London
London's
lockdown?
good. It's actually much quieter as can be expected, so it's rather lovely. I can't complain at the moment.
Good. I'll be fading into the background. I'm teeny tiny at the moment because I'm going to be handing over to you in a sec. And I'd just like to hear a little bit about what you do, what your life involves, being an actor, and how you got to doing it. And then after we hear from Steph, then we'll be doing a little bit of question-y bits at the end. So if a question pops into your head whilst we're talking, then do type a comment, type it into the comments, and we can get back to them at the end. That would be great. You all ready, Steph?
I'm ready.
Wickety woo! Over to you.
All right. Well, hello everyone, and thanks for joining. And thank you, Tessa, for putting this on. It's a really nice opportunity to talk to people about being an actor and kind of what it's like. And especially if you want to be an actor when you grow up, or if you're even grown up, as Tessa said, and want to change career, perhaps. I've written some notes. So if I keep looking over here, that's because I'm a waffler and I want to try and stay on point and not go off too much and make it a big old ramble for you. So yeah, as Tessa said, we worked on Tap Dancing Mermaid together and on the R&D of Perfect. So hopefully the stuff I'll talk about might be of interest if you're looking into going into the career. First of all, what does it mean to be an actor? I was thinking about this, and I suppose the first thing you do is you have an audition. That's the first thing that you'll come to terms with, and that's usually a big panel of people. It can be anything from 1 to 20 people in front of you. It can be very competitive, and as everyone says, you get a lot of rejections in this business, but one of the most amazing things of being an actor is when you get that job. And statistics wise, I would say when I first started, I was probably going up for about 30 auditions before I got one job. And for adverts particularly, you could go up for about 50. and maybe get 2. So it can be quite competitive, but it is worthwhile. And I think the biggest thing about being an actor is just stick with it. So once you've got a job, it can vary in length. I've done jobs that are sometimes 3 months, 6 months, a year. The West End usually have contracts that are 12 months long. And just before lockdown started, I actually just got cast in Magic Goes Wrong, which is my first West End show. And that was an 11-month contract. Usually touring shows can be 3 to 6 months. And then filming, you can do an advert that's 1 day long or sometimes a week. So it's really varied, really, really varied. And another thing you might need when you're an actor is what we call a sideline job or an in-between job. So when those contracts don't match up completely, you've got little gaps, you might want to find another thing that you're doing on the side. And what I do is I teach some Lambda drama exams, like one-to-one private tuition or online. And because my degree was in English literature, I also tutor English GCSE and A-level. And then I sometimes run workshops in schools as well. So I work a lot with children a lot of the time when I'm not acting. And one of my most favourite things about acting is that you get to meet so many people. Like I got to meet Tessa and all the people she works with, and the collaborative process is amazing. And also that you get to have a variety of work. And that's what I thought would be quite interesting, hopefully, to talk to you about today, is that being an actor is not just one thing. It's not just that you're in a TV series, although that would be lovely, but you can just do so many different jobs. So I'm going to come on to that. First of all, I'll talk about how I started. I grew up a bit like Tessa in a seaside town, but far more east along the coast near Brighton. And I went to my local dance school, and I was obsessed with dressing up. And there's a little hilarious picture of me here. I would dress up in the garden all the time in whatever I could find and become characters. Here I don't know what I am, but I've got witchy fingers on and some sort of like Kate Bush channeling going on here. And I spent a lot of time doing this. I was also obsessed with poetry and Spike Milligan. So I told my mum at a very young age I wanted to be a dancer and a poet, which is an odd combination. That sort of progressed, and I think I started to realise quite young that I really loved performing. So I did dance lessons, and then at 11 I started just a normal Saturday drama group, not far from where I lived, and joined people there. And then at my local school, they did group keyboard lessons, so I jumped on that. And I did as much as I could. And then what changed when I was 13 is I got a scholarship to a ballet school, which is my next picture. And I went to a full-time ballet school, which means you do ballet quite a lot of the day around all your other subjects. And it was amazing, but it was a really big highlight in my life because it made me realise that that wasn't what I wanted to do. And I think, as you probably can imagine, being a ballet dancer, you have to put an awful lot of hours in, and it's very, very physical. And you do usually start quite young. And so I left, and I went back to my local school and back to my Saturday club drama and my dance schools. And I did loads of different productions. And I started doing far more of music and drama as well as dance. And I'm really glad I did, actually. But then a teacher said to me something which I think is really relevant to how my career's gone. And she said you should also always find something to focus on and make sure you're not a jack of all trades and a master of none. And I actually just found that I completely disagree with that, because I think it is brilliant to have loads of random skills.
I was thinking the same thing. I was like, oh no, I'm the ultimate master of none and jack of all trades. So
well, that's it. And I think it was one of the worst things they could have said, because there was I thinking, oh, maybe I should have stayed at the ballet school and like focused on just that. But actually, I think it's really lovely to have loads of different skills and interests. So to any little people watching, keep just doing what you really like, I think, is the key thing. And so then after that, I did the more formal side. I went to uni. I went to the University of Leeds, studied English and theatre. Once again, couldn't make my mind up, so I did both. And I did a lot of theatre shows. I also ran the theatre group there, like a theatre society, and we performed in lots of shows and produced them. And then I co-wrote a show with my really good friend Alice Carter, who's also an amazing producer, makes a lot of comedy in London and works for the AC. And we took a show to Edinburgh, and I think Edinburgh is such a great festival for like making work, performing, getting experience, seeing shows if you're interested. It's brilliant for children if you want to go for children's theatre. And that was a great experience. And I did 4 Edinburghs in a row, which was really, really fun. And that gave me a real taste for acting. And I just really knew from then that I wanted to make performing a full-time career. So after uni, I went to the Oxford School of Drama. And I think it's really important to say there's like not one route into this. This is just my route, and it's really popular to go to drama school, but it really isn't, as Tessa knows, it's not the one way to do it. I went to the Oxford School of Drama and studied acting, which was amazing, and it's set in this little farm in the countryside of Oxford. And we did a far more formal training of drama there. So less about making shows, which I did at uni, and far more about vocal studies and physicalization and movement and text work and Shakespeare, lots of Shakespeare, which is good because it kind of took me back to my like poetry roots as a kid. And something that I think is quite interesting about drama school is I managed to get a scholarship, which is called a Dada Award. So if anyone is interested in drama school, or if you know of anyone that says they want to go, do look at the bursaries, because they paid for my fees. I wouldn't have been able to go otherwise. So it is possible. And then, yeah, so that brings me on to getting into acting. You can do the uni route. Some people go that way. Drama school. My husband went to LAMDA. But as Tessa knows, you can just find a local theatre company, try and get experience with them. You could try writing to theatre companies, emailing them. Your local drama group might have really good contacts as well. I think drama school is just a very popular way, but not the only route. And then I suppose getting work, like what do you do when you want to be an actor, and how do you get jobs? And obviously you need those auditions, as I mentioned earlier. And the most common way to get work is to have an agent. But again, that's not the only way. You can write to theatre companies and you can just get experience that way. You could write to an agent to try and get one that way. Or again, the most common way is that agents come to drama schools and see all the shows. And that is how I basically started my career. I got an agent from Oxford School of Drama and started getting work with them. I put on my notes, actually, I just remembered, if you want a list of the drama schools, there's a conference of drama schools, the CDS, lists all the ones with all their different bursaries and fees and things like that. So, and they're different lengths of courses. You can do 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, which I think is really interesting. So I got an agent and I started trying to get as much experience as I could. So I did like fringe shows, you know, all those theatre shows above a pub. I did a lot of festivals. I did Latitude. I did a couple of adverts very cheaply. I think I was pretty underpaid at the beginning, and some short films. And I just did as much as I could to build my CV. And the CV thing is interesting as well. So Spotlight is the website where you have your actor's CV. And you have your headshot on there, which is your head and shoulders. I don't have a picture of that. And that's kind of where all the casting directors, the people that are going to get you into auditions, and your agent, they're all chatting and sending your CV back and forward. So that is kind of how it all works. So I did as much work as I could to build that Spotlight CV. And finally I got a job, which I think was kind of the start of some things, which I have a picture of, which was The Importance of Being Earnest in York. And I played Gwendolyn. It's an Oscar Wilde play. Some of you probably know it. And it's comedy. And I think out of everything, I love doing comedy the most. I just love being really silly. And
you're very funny.
Thank you. I hope so. On stage. Not that funny today. And I absolutely loved doing it. I lived in York for about 3 months to do the show, and it was really fortunate. It got some nice reviews. I don't actually have any pictures of the production, so hence I've had to do a picture of the stage. But we got a nice write-up, and that's quite useful when you're an actor, is if you get a nice mention, it can be quite useful. And because of the show, I got a new agent, and she introduced me to some great contacts. And she's sadly now retired, but Linda was amazing. And I'm now with a new agent as well, so it's quite a business. So after York and that wonderful agent, I moved on, and I thought what I would do now is just show you what I think is the most exciting thing about acting, which is the range of work you can do. It's really varied. You meet really different people, and going back to that teacher that gave me terrible advice, I think, as a teenager, can do loads of different things. And it's actually quite fun to have that sort of CV. obviously it's amazing if you do hone one skill and maybe you really focus on singing or you really focus on dance or acting. Fair enough. But I've personally really loved doing random stuff. So what did I want to say about this? After doing Portsmouth Notice, I did a few other jobs here and there, but one I wanted to talk about was obviously meeting Tessa Bide. I'd picked up puppetry along the way through random bits and bobs, but this was my first puppetry show that had so much puppeteering in it. And it was an amazing audition as well, which I wanted to talk about. Because talking of skills, Tessa had you in the audition, which was, I've got to say, really fun. But I had to play the ukulele, luckily I can, tap dance, sing a song, say a story, and do lots of different voices, and then improvise with all the different puppets I'd never met. And for some people, they'd get really freaked out. But I've got to be honest, I just loved being in that room and having a good old play. And I think that's why maybe I got it, because I just
smashed it.
I had such a nice time. And luckily I could do the other random things like tap dance and play the ukulele. And then Tessa directed me in the show, which she had obviously done before, in her beautiful book, which I still have on my shelf up here actually. And I toured it around the UK, and it was my first tour actually. And I toured it for about 3 months, I think, with our amazing stage manager Jay. So it was just 2 of us, and it was really fab, really fun. And I want to say my most favourite thing on that show was meeting the children afterwards, because I get to work with a lot of children in my sideline job teaching and things, but meeting the kids at the end of the show and showing them the puppets is just magical. Some people worry that you sort of ruin the magic when you show them the puppets, but I actually think it's rather lovely because they get to see how they work and they get to see those characters up close, which is a really lovely moment. So that was fabulous. And then after that, so did I have a picture of that one? I think I did. A little picture of us in rehearsals for Tap Dancing Mermaid.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I think we rehearsed in 8 days.
Yes, it was, I think it was 8 days, yeah.
I think it was 8 days. So it was quick. A lot of rehearsals when you're acting can be anywhere from 5 days, which is common now, shockingly, to 4 weeks. The dream is 4 weeks. The job I'm currently in, but obviously not because of lockdown, but we'll go back to, is a 4-week rehearsal process. And I think that's because it's got a lot of magic in it, so it's very physical and quite dangerous. But yeah, tap dancing we learned in 8 days, which was brilliant. And also I wanted to say my favourite puppet was the auntie that I've ever worked with. Because the lampshade on her head is just genius. It's genius. Then after Tap Dancing Mermaid, the producers, Sam and Sally, who run Pigtails Productions, very kindly brought me in for an audition with a show they were going to produce with Polka Theatre, which, little plug, amazing theatre in Wimbledon, which makes children's theatre absolutely lovely. And I managed to get this job, which I have a picture of, which is How to Hide a Lion. And I worked with the director, Pete Glanville, and the composer, Barb Younger, and I performed it with Gilbert Taylor, who's an amazing puppeteer. And then we toured it for 4 months with Matt, our stage manager. So growing in crew and cast here, we toured 3 people this time, not 2. And this was a lovely show, a lot of singing. So again, looking at that skill set and like keeping it varied. On this one, we had to puppeteer and sing the majority of the show. And there was 2 of us this time, so that was really great. I think also, talking of puppeteering, it's a brilliant skill to have if you're currently an actor as well at the moment, even just picking up a workshop. I know Tessa does some workshops, cheeky plug.
Thanks,
but it really, really is useful since Warhorse is just taken off. I think before puppetry, obviously Little Angel Theatre in London, which I bizarrely live quite near, has always been doing puppetry, and there's a lot of other companies that have been doing it, but since Warhorse it's just had a real moment, particularly for bigger shows and also for shows that aren't just for children. So I think it's a great skill to grab. And then after this, I've got another picture. I did this last year, some of you may have come, it was We're Going on a Bear Hunt, which was with the same director and composer. So I suppose talking about acting, when they say it helps who you know and things like that, I'd never really had any help for the last 10 years of my acting with who I knew, until the fact that these 3 jobs had linked together, working with Tess, the same producers for the next show, and then the same directors. So sometimes there is a truth in that, you know, if you get on with someone well and you work well together, they will bring you back. And that is lovely, but it also doesn't always happen because you might not fit the role. So this was 4 actors now on We're Going on a Bear Hunt, and we toured the summer, autumn, and then we had a winter Christmas run in London. And this was probably the hardest puppetry show I've done because we sang the entire show. A lot of it was in 4-part harmony, and it was also very physical. So it was like doing a dance. And when you're puppeteering, you have like a board like this, which is called the play board, and the puppets sit on top of it. You may know this. And you're having to like duck down behind the board every time you've got your puppet up. But you couldn't stop in this show because we played all the characters and we'd swap over. So one minute I might be holding a character called Gilbert, but I'll be voicing my character Lizzie over there, whilst also puppeteering a dog with my right hand or something like this. And so it was the busiest show I've ever done, but it was so much fun. Really, really loved it. I had a great time. And they've been touring for about 7 years. So yeah, and I think it may come back. So skills are really important, and I think just having fun with loads of different skills is brilliant. Which moves me on to the next thing. Another style of theatre completely is outdoor theatre. I did a tour not long ago of, bizarrely enough, Importance of Being Earnest again. I know, it's weird that I've got it twice on my CV. And this time I got cast as Mrs. Bracknell, who is Gwendolyn's mum, Gwendolyn who I played in York. So age-wise doesn't make sense, but I suppose the exciting and good thing about theatre is age doesn't always matter too much. You can get cast in a whole range of ages, and it doesn't matter as much as screen. So that was really fun. And I can luckily get my voice quite low, so I think hopefully I pulled it off. And she's such a comical character. It was really, really fun. So there's a little picture of this. The reason why this is important is, I think being an actor, having good projection and vocal skills is very important. We toured around national parks and we built the theatre from scratch. It was like a proper little acting troupe. Every day we'd set up, we'd build the stage and we'd do a show, and it could be from 60 to 500 people, and we didn't have microphones. And all the other shows I just mentioned, by the way, all mic'd up. All the puppetry ones anyway, when you're in a theatre. And when you're outside, like there's nowhere for the sound to go. It just disappears. So you have to have that complete strength to try and project over 500 people in a sunny park. So I learned a lot doing outdoor theatre. And there's so much outdoor theatre in the summer, so you should definitely go and watch it or try and be in it, because it's just a brilliant process. Then another completely different genre that I want to talk about that probably everyone has experience of is Panto. I've only done one Panto and I've absolutely loved it. And it was last year, I think, just over 18 months ago. I was Jeannie in a production of Aladdin. There's a picture here of me, I think, with a ridiculous blue wig. And for this, again, it was a comedy role, and I played the twin sisters, so the genie and then her evil twin sister. And I had to keep changing my wig, which was a joke all the way through of if I got the wrong wig on, or I couldn't get back on stage in time to be the other character, or got the wrong accent, had to be American and also have an Essex accent. And that was really, really fun. And I think Panto, most actors at some point in their life will do a Panto. And it's great because you know you can just be silly. And unlike a lot of plays where you don't always necessarily interact with the audience, on a lot of the puppetry shows we really don't. Actually, sometimes on Tap Dancing Mermaid would come out into the audience and have a bit of chat and banter. But on a lot of the other shows, there's that fourth wall when you're not integrated with them. But with Panto, you can mess something up and then just have an absolute giggle with the audience. It's just lovely. So that's another thing. And also, talking of skills, had to do some accents, had to do some singing and dancing in that one as well. So it was quite varied. Something completely different, which I've got a picture of here, is video games. It's a really awkward picture of me, actually. But it's becoming really popular, and so I think more and more actors are getting into this, and it's motion capture, which some of you may be super familiar with, but I was bamboozled by it when I first started doing it. I didn't know what was going on. So this was for a video game, which supposedly is very popular, but I don't have a video game console. It's called Star Citizen, Squadron 64, I think. And they cover you in these little bubbles all over your body. And you're on set, and it's kind of like a green screen, but it's all the way wrapped around a room. So it's on the sides, it's on the ceiling, it's on the floor. And then there's just, and it's massive. It's like, I don't know, an industrial warehouse type size. And then there's just a whole row of people in front of you, kind of like doing a theatre show, but all the lights are up. And there's probably about 50 people sat behind screens. And as you move with your bubbles on, they are turning you in live time into a character on their screens. And it's just blew my mind. And you can't see it in the picture, but later on they cover your face in dots as well and take pictures of you. You go into a little booth and there's cameras all round, and they just take photo to try and map how you make facial expressions. And then they figure it all out together, and then you just become this little avatar on a video game. So it was amazing. Whoa. So much fun, but so bizarre. And I have a really embarrassing story about this, which isn't really a name drop. It's more an embarrassing thing for me, which is I was like a tiny part, and I was there with somebody else who had the same agent. And a person came over who was the lead role, which was lovely, and introduced themselves. And I always think it's so nice when you're on like set or stage with someone, people you don't know, that everyone just introduces themselves. And he was like, "Oh, hello, I'm Mark." And I was like, "Oh, hello, I'm Steph. And this is my friend." And da-da-da-da-da. And he's like, "Great, and see you on set." And I looked at the guy I was working with, and his face had just dropped and he'd gone white. And I was like, "Why? What's wrong?" And it was Mark Hamill, as in Luke Skywalker. And I had no idea, because I am so bad at faces. And I also can't tell who people are out of context. I just think everyone is like, you know. And so, yeah, and I just didn't realise. I just thought it was Mark, you know, just another jobbing actor. But no, it wasn't. So motion capture, really interesting. There's loads of work, I think, coming out of that industry. Oh yeah, so another thing is I've worked in devising a bit with you, Tessa, on devising Perfect, which was your beautiful show that I helped R&D and then went to watch. And I devised last year, I don't have a picture of this yet, but of Quentin Blake, a book that he wrote called The Green Ship, and we toured that to libraries. And I loved that process of making work, and I'd love to do more of it. And so 2 years ago, I saw an audition crop up for a cabaret troupe. And I thought, oh, well, that might be a good way to start making short pieces of work that I can try out at home. And then I'd have that safe environment of a troupe to sort of do it with. And luckily I got it. And here's a picture of me with Invisible Cabaret, who are an amazing troupe that make work all about mental health. And we've done a lot of shows in London at Volts festivals and things like that. And so I tap dance with them, and I bizarrely now do a lip sync thing, which I never thought I'd do. And I do a ukulele trio. So again, just finding new skills, and being a jack of all trades is a really nice thing to do. It's really fun. And it enables me to not devise shows, but it enables me to like make work, which has been really lovely. And I'd like to do more of that. Last thing I want to talk about is screen work. So I have done some short films, and I did 2 independent feature films. None of these are famous, so don't start Googling. A feature length is anything over 60 minutes, just to let you know, and a short film is anything under that. Screen work is so totally different. There's a lot of hanging around when like directors want to change a camera angle, or you have to repeat the scene over and over so they can get a shot over here and then a shot over here. And sometimes you have to be really careful of continuity, which means, if you don't know, that say I did a gesture and the camera was this way, as soon as they went over there, I've got to make sure I do the same gesture on the same line in exactly the same way, sometimes. So film and TV and adverts are completely different. I've not done TV, I would love to, my husband has. And I've done a lot of adverts. I've got a hilarious picture of me doing an advert. And the reason I want to talk about this one, this is from Dorset Cereals. And the campaign was breakfast on the slow. So that idea of stop rushing breakfast and take your time with it, which I'm doing a lot more in lockdown, by the way, because I've got so much time. But I realise that's not the same for everyone. And so on this set, for adverts, you have so many people around you and there's quite a lot of pressure. So for Dorset Serials, there was the crew, so the director, all the other people setting up with the camera work. There probably were about 15 people on crew, maybe more. Then you've got catering as well. You get very well fed on film sets or TV or advert sets. And then you have, which is different to everywhere else, you have the clients, so the people that own the product. So I had all these random people from Dorset Serials also there watching you, probably about 10 of them. And then you get the advertisers, so the people that wrote the advert and made it. And I think there was at least 5 or 6 of them. So you have all these people watching you live, but also on screens around the room. So it's a very, very different experience to theatre. In this advert as well, there was a few things that I think are interesting. So one was that the director is a specialist in filming food. I did not know that was a thing, but it is. The second was that there are so many people watching you just do this. I was there for, I think, 1 or 2 days. And lastly, the magic of the camera. It's an area I really don't know much about, but if you watch, this isn't a clip of the video, but you can find it on Google and YouTube and stuff. My head is talking in normal speed, but my body and everything around me is in slow-mo. And they did it by recording what are called different slates. So they'd record the cat, I think you can see the cat in the picture, the little girl jumping, the toast behind me is flipping up, I'm going like this with a spoon of milk, and everything else is in ridiculous slow-mo. And it's because they basically photoshopped, but with much better software than Photoshop, my head onto my body. So they're 2 completely different takes, and they put them back together. So I'm speaking in normal speed, but my whole body and everything else is slow-mo. And it blew my mind because I just don't understand tech. And I thought that was really interesting at how different that is.
I thought you just got really good at pouring milk really, really slowly.
If only. Yeah, maybe I should have said that I did. That's another skill. Pouring slow milk. So that's what I just wanted to talk about, was all the different types of theatre. And obviously that's not all of the random jobs I've done. I've done many jobs that last like 1 week or 1 day, but I won't go through everything because I'll be here for a while. But it's so varied and it's so exciting. And I think it's really lovely to keep finding the stuff that you're interested in as an actor, rather than thinking it just has to be a play. And actually, I wanted to finish with the show that I'm doing, Magic Goes Wrong. For that audition was like another step up from Tap Dancing Mermaid as well, because I'm understudying 3 roles and playing 2 small parts. So I had to be able to do a German accent, an RP accent, a handstand, the splits, dancing, lots of different character roles. And I think it's just nice to always be open as well to maybe not doing them perfectly, which I would say I probably didn't in the audition, but having the boldness to have a really good go, because I was not the strongest on the splits as others in the audition, but it didn't matter, which was really lovely. So there's my long waffle about acting and how varied it can be.
And hope Steph
some questions.
That's amazing. Oh, I really enjoyed that. It's so amazing how varied, you know, your work has been, and that theatre is one slice of it, but you know there are all these other amazing slices to your acting pie. Those of you who are watching, please do feel free to write any questions about anything you've heard, and we'll put them to Steph live. I would like to kick things off by saying, is there a particular area that you most love, or is there one that you get most nervous for? Like, how do you kind of, what's your relationship with each of those kind of different slices?
Yeah, I love doing comedy. I haven't always. I talked bizarrely about a lot where I have done comedy, maybe because it's my favourite, but it also makes me the most nervous because it has that pressure of you're expecting a laugh at some point, and it doesn't always come. So like, we all know this with Tap Dancing Mermaid, there's a brilliant moment where the auntie's wig comes off. Oh, spoiler. If you haven't seen it, ignore that. But there is this brilliant moment, and it used to always get a laugh, and it's so great. But on, I'd say probably 2 shows, the wig came off before, like in the first scene. So all that build up of her being this horrible character and like building to this brilliant moment, it just fell off, and it just lost that moment completely. And things like that do make me nervous because you put a lot of pressure on to get in the reaction, and it doesn't always come, but you just have to learn to get over it.
And I guess in plays like the magic, magic that goes wrong, it's like they're so finely choreographed. People could say, oh, but it doesn't matter if anything goes wrong because it's the play that goes wrong, right? But they're so finely choreographed that it must be the stakes are even higher, right?
100%. Yeah, so with Magic Goes On, I've only started rehearsals. I'm not performing it yet, but I've seen it obviously, and it's completely choreographed. There are moments where some characters speak to the audience and there's room, tiny bits of room for improvisation if the audience say something different back. But I would say, and and without giving stuff away, obviously, there are some things that are planned and some that aren't. But pretty much, it is,
it's really a tight ship.
Really tight ship. Yeah, things can't just go wrong. Especially magic goes wrong because it's really dangerous.
Yeah.
Genuinely, Penn and Teller wrote it with Mischief Comedy, who obviously make all the stuff.
Wow.
They have given some of their incredible magic tricks, but there's generally like sawing in half stuff and cannons and
amazing.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask, I didn't go to drama school. I did a hell of a lot of auditions, but didn't go. And I always struggled with the thing they all used to say, we're going to strip you down and then build you back up. And I just felt like that was so grim an image. But was the experience like that for you, or were they just being dramatic?
I think I was fortunate it didn't happen to me, but I did a 1 year, I did a postgraduate. I think if you maybe did a 3 year, maybe it's tougher. Maybe also because you're younger and you go when you're 18. But not always, but most people go for a 3 year when they're 18, like university. I don't feel like it stripped me back. I think because I'd also done a tiny bit of acting in between uni and going to Oxford, I did a couple of shows at the Hampstead, and so I was already kind of figuring out what it all was a little bit. So it was just for me really good for skills practice.
Yeah, tuning.
Yeah, tuning and honing and learning a lot of stuff. But I think some people I know say that it does. It kind of, I think, actually I'm thinking of one person, a friend of a friend, who said that it took away all your habits and made you relearn stuff. And I think that can feel like being stripped away. So I probably act with the same bad habits to a degree that I had 10 years ago, but more. Whereas I think for other people going very young and for 3 years, you probably are made to be a blank canvas, perhaps. I think that might be true for some. Yeah.
Cool. I've got a question on Facebook here. It says, I'm newish to the industry. You mentioned about getting paid certain rates for jobs and that you might have done some in the past for a lower rate. Is there a way to find out what the rate should be, or does your agent do that?
Yeah, great question. Yes, your agent should do it if you have one. Equity has brilliant pages on what you should be paid. There's an equity minimum, and then there's also equity, I've forgotten what it's called, but there's one that's not equity minimum contract.
ITC?
It might be ITC. There's touring wages. There's sort of like a PAYE wage, which works on an hourly contract as well, which a lot of fringe theatres do now, which is great. So there, your agent and equity will have all that information. Yeah.
Great. I also wanted to just see if there was anything kind of still on your acting bucket list that, that things that you haven't done that you really want to, or skills that you want to maybe, skill up in.
All the time. all of it. I think I'd love to do telly at some point. I'd love to make a show at some point. I really want to go back to Magic Goes Wrong at some point.
Yes, you will.
There's loads of things. I've got a very good friend, Blanche, who's a voiceover actor, and I'd love to tap into that world. I've got another friend that does audio books, and I think that must be lovely, like going to a studio, because I love reading, just reading books. So So there's lots of things. I actually really hope to get my tap even better during this time in lockdown and before lockdown, so that I could start coming up with some more cabaret little bits. But it turns out tap is not favourable with neighbours.
No. Very difficult to practice at home.
That's got to be on pause. But yeah, I want to do lots of things, audio things, voice things, make a show one time. That would be wicked.
Amazing. I'm going to do a shout out for any final questions before we go. I think my final question would probably be, has there been an experience with theatre that you that felt like, yes, this is definitely what I should be doing, kind of a light bulb moment, or a very confirming, it can be very hard to keep positive and to keep going. Has there been a moment where you've gone, oh no, this is totally worth it, this is where I should be?
Yeah, I think there's been like a few, but they're of the same thing, which is I do get really nervous, and I always get really nervous, and the only way I can get over it is to prepare ridiculoly in rehearsals and at home. And then hopefully once you're doing the shows, you might have this as well, Tess, like you get more and more used to the work, and there are those little moments whenever I do jobs where I feel like something could go wrong and I'd be all right. And those are the moments I remember that I feel like, oh, I can do this, because you feel the confidence on stage. And I can remember moments it's happened, like when I did Panto, a lot of things went wrong technically, and they were very comical and very embarrassing. But for some reason, maybe being the genie, I just had this sort of like fake bravado, and it was fine. And I did half a song pretty much in the dark, and I just carried on. And it's those moments in puppeteering as well. I've once slipped on the rod, and the puppet looks like they've just collapsed. But I caught it, and it just looked like she'd sort of touched her toes and then come back up again. And then I improv'd a little line that I sort of teased with the audience. But it's those moments where I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm at home here. I do feel in the right space. But that does take a bit of prep and knowing what you're doing, I think, and your character.
Yeah, and a lot of experience. I think that comes with experience, doesn't it? Just doing it and knowing, oh, I've come out of these sticky situations before, I've got my own back, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think so, actually. Yeah, I probably wouldn't have been saying that 10 years ago.
I'm having a shift of position to plug my computer in. I'm going to take any final questions, and if you can't, if a question pops into your head after you've watched this, or you're watching this and it's not live anymore, then put them in the comments, and I can just ask Steph. Yeah. I've got you on WhatsApp, so there you're live there. Thank you so much, Steph. I really, really enjoyed today, and I feel like I've learnt loads myself. So yeah, it was just what I hoped for. So thank you so much, and I really hope you have a good rest of lockdown. You get back on that stage ASAP.
Thanks so much. It's so nice to see you, and it's been lovely to waffle about myself.
You've done amazingly. Right, I'm gonna sign off from this, and I'm gonna just talk to you guys about what else we've got coming up this month. Thank you, Steph. Bye. So just before you go, friends, this is a little taster of what we've got coming up this month. So every Wednesday, it will be at 3 p.m. We know what we're doing now. We've got our Meet the Team Wednesdays, and next Wednesday is with Leonard Guar Evans, who is an amazing bilingual Welsh designer and maker. She designed our show Perfect and the Anarchist Mobile Library that was supposed to be touring this summer. And she's an incredible designer, puppet maker, costume designer, costume maker. So some really interesting practical skills there. She trained at the Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama, and she works both in Welsh and English. And yeah, if you're really into costume and sumptuous, beautiful visuals, then Leonard is your girl. So she's going to be here next Wednesday at 3 p.m. And then on this Friday, we've got a puppetry workshop being released that I've recorded for you guys. It's to make your own tabletop bunraku style puppet with a working peg mouth if you're feeling a little bit more advanced. It's about a 35-minute workshop to watch. It'll probably take you about an hour to do. So really good to keep little ones entertained during lockdown, and bigger ones if you've always wanted to know how to make a puppet, then that's going to be really great for you too. We've got The Selfish Giant also streaming at the moment, so you can watch that for free or for a donation would be lovely. The link on that is on our page. We've got a competition running to recreate one of our pictures of our shows that you can win a copy of the Tap Dancing Mermaid. We've got loads going on, and we're trying to do this to keep afloat during Corona. So if you feel like you could, we've got a donation page on Buy Me a Coffee, and you can go there and you can donate £3, £6, £9, the price of a coffee or 2 coffees, just to say if you've appreciated any of this content and you want to keep us going. Thank you very much for sticking with us, especially with the technical difficulties today. And I'll see you again very soon. Thank you.